Hello, my friends. Finally, frontline updates. Yeah, Russia is getting close to the Ukrainian defense line in Zaporizhia region, but they have substantial losses on the way. Russia is using the new tactics, which they successfully implemented in Pokrovsk and Mirnograd, but here Russia has way more losses, mainly because of the two reasons. The terrain here is very flat, and also there are no leaves on the trees any longer. So those tree lines between the fields, they're not working as they used to before to hide Russian infantry. Russians are pretty much visible, and at the same time they have natural obstacles, so they stack at some points. The only way for them to hide is just in ruined buildings or basements of the settlements. And for this reason you see those big advancements. They have to go from one village to another with small, very small groups of the soldiers, 1-2 soldiers, not more. They usually do it under the cover of fog, and here they try to offense with more forces, but after all they were kaputted. So Russians went there to Oleksiivka village. The Ukrainian surveillance drones used the thermal cameras, and later on there was artillery fire. Also very precise drone fire later on, which caused kind of the big losses for Russians. Here Russians didn't use some clumsy tanks, no, they tried to advance faster than usual using Niva vehicles and some sort of the DIY buggy. Yeah, sorry, I had to apply my own censorship here, so you can see Niva vehicle, one more Niva vehicle converted to some sort of the pickup truck, and this is buggy. Well, here Ukrainian drone operators helped Russians as they can. It's getting cold in Ukraine, so they warmed up everything of that for Russians to feel more cozy, and it looks like they really enjoyed it. At least we haven't received any sort of the complaints from Russians, so I guess the job was done quite correctly. Our drone operators are really helpful. The position was geolocated, confirmed not just 3 vehicles Russia lost, but many more infantry. So we see that sometimes, many of the times, this infiltration tactics of the Russian forces is not working. Nevertheless, they are very close to Ruzzia. The Ruzzia village is already at the main defense line. You see this line over here, I hope you can see the blue line. It is just behind the Haichu river. I understand why Russia is attacking to this place, because here is the good chance for them to cross the river, especially right now, then the river is not very full. Plus, the next big settlement, which is called Ternuvata, is very, very close. So potentially they might get to it very fast if they are not cancelled on the way. Well, Russians usually send multiple of the mid-waves, and of course some of the mid-wave, it reaches the settlements. So it's their next idea to propel behind the main defense line, and that opens the way for them to reach this road and, in the future perspective, even Zaporizhia. Deep State doesn't give us this information with today's update, but I'm sure it will be confirmed, because it's already been confirmed by other analytics and by visual data, because Russians put their flags out there. Here is the Russian flag, and it could be also the Russian special flag operation. Then they just sent a couple of the soldiers very far away, and they put their flags and they take their soldiers out, but usually in this direction it is not happening like that. The last time I saw those flag operations just for videos, it was in Sumy. Sometimes Ukraine also does those, but quite rarely. Mostly it's Russian type of getting the ground under control. And we're gonna speak about Kupiansk, by the way, today, because Putin claims that Russia occupied Kupiansk at the beginning of this month, on 4th of November, which is absolute bullshit, because we're gonna look through the Russian maps even, which shows that Kupiansk is not being occupied even today. As well as Pokrovsk, by the way. The Deep State military map also tells that Russians are trying to reach Novodanilivka village, Zaporizhia direction. They're attacking from Robotyne village, which they were capable to get under control, as far as I remember, even the last year. It is one of those directions where Russians even use some of the armored vehicles, even BTRs. Well, at this time of the year, BTRs, it's kind of hard, but probably Russians don't have the other option. Usually there should be BMPs or tanks. BTRs, they simply can bog down in the mud. From Robotyne, Russians are going to Orikhiv, but here for Russians it's not that great story as in the eastern side of Zaporizhia Oblast, which we discussed before, because Ukraine defense is very strong in this direction. It was designed to withstand attacks coming from the south, And before, Russians lost in Malatekmachka multiple of the vehicles. Well, today one more MiG attack was repelled. And yeah, I have more news from that attack. More data is coming. There is the Russian infantry carrying vehicle, and definitely, oh my god, there was the infantry inside. A Ukrainian drone visited the Russian soldiers. They were too late to leave it. Okay. Yeah, kind of the nice fishing day for our guys out there. And if we go back to the previous front line, you may see that still Russians are trying to get more territories, and the Ukrainian defense here in this direction, Zaporizhia Oblast, it is kind of weak one. If we compare it to Pokrovsk and Dobropilya direction, unfortunately Ukraine still cannot stabilize the front line. We'll see if it is possible. Then Russians reached already the defense line. For Hulaypole direction, the situation is the same. There were no changes for the last 24 hours. Alright, now to Pokrovsk direction, there Ukraine tried to supply maybe Ukrainian group in Mirnograd or maybe withdraw the forces, but there are some of the vehicle losses on the way in or probably on the way out. I guess it's the new update. Let me check out this information. Yeah, it was presented by the Russian Rubicon. So if Russia deployed their most capable drone unit to the place, it means that they're getting serious to cut Ukrainian supplies. So this is the road, supply connection, and yeah, unfortunately, Russia causes some of the losses for Ukraine. It was a mistake done by Ukrainian command to keep forces for that long time in Mirnograd. They should have been withdrawn. Yeah, it's not the mistake similar to what happened in Bakhmut, but still it's too late. Well, here luckily the vehicle itself was abandoned by Ukrainians, clearly visible, there's no one inside. The vehicle itself stuck in the trench, as you might see, and was just finished by Russians, that's it. And the other vehicle was lost not far away from this industrial area. It was actually a supply truck there, interesting. So the drone hit likely not the Ukrainian infantry forces, which were very close, but it hit the top of this truck itself. So truck was disabled, but soldiers, they stayed alive. In the same video, I also see the Ukrainian tank, which is stuck in the mud. As Russians say, tank ВСУ застрявший в окопе. So tank that is stuck in a trench, again abandoned and was finished by the drone. Yeah, the situation in Pokrovsk is not that great for Ukraine, but Ukrainian drone operators also hunt Russian Rubicon drone operators. There were a few successful hits towards Rubicon operators, and also Ukraine is using gliding bombs. The deep state military map gives us this update that Russians moved towards the central part of Pokrovsk. Here you can see with the main forces, plus expanded the gray zone towards Rivne. Rivne is very close to Mirnograd, so Ukraine will have to withdraw, unfortunately with losses, its forces from Mirnograd. Also, Russians finally propelled towards Vladimirivka, and according to my information, there is also the presence of the Russian army in Shakhove. Yeah, occasional, but there could be expansion of the gray area towards Shakhove as well. Before, Ukraine was very successful in repelling this Russian attack towards Zoloty Kolodets, but Russia manages to take more ground over here. So couple of days ago, and it is today. You see that little by little Russia takes the ground in the northern area too, and for them it's crucial because they want to encircle. The main aim is to get control over Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, Drushkivka and Konstantinivka. Those are the main settlements for Ukrainian defense of Donbass in general. Today, Putin once again said openly that Russia is pretty much okay with this special military operation and how it is ongoing. They're pretty much satisfied, but if it is a peace deal, let it be a peace deal. So they don't really care about the goals of the special military operation should be achieved. And what he said, like Putin said personally about Kupiansk, that it has been grabbed by Russian hands. He said like that. Yeah, I know Russian, so I translated it for you. In other words, it was already occupied 2 weeks ago, which is absolute nonsense. Here we go, Kupiansk. If you check out the deep state military map, it's far from occupation. This settlement is quite big, yeah. It's not the biggest one, not like Bakhmut or something, but this part is totally under Ukrainian control behind Oskil River. So Russia controls how many percent? Maybe 40, if we count all of the gray area, maybe 60% of this city. But Putin claims that Russia established full control. And he says that Ukraine doesn't understand the situation on the ground. He definitely said like that today. And Ukraine is forcing its army to defend till the last soldier in those towns, villages, whatsoever. But actually with that, Putin shows that he doesn't know what is happening on the front lines, because even Russian maps, they show that there is no occupation of Kupiansk. Yeah, sometimes I look for the Russian military analytics, and that is what they draw, yeah? It's not the full occupation. Yeah, they draw more arrows, which are not being confirmed, but here the part, even on their maps, the part of the city is not yet being occupied. They even draw some of the counterattack attempts from Ukrainian side towards Peshane, towards Sobolevka, yeah. Well, for them, if they see the Russian flag put a few kilometers away from the main front line, they already put everything in red. It's the usual thing for Russians. But in reality, it's not like that. Those maps are hard to follow. They're kind of ugly, I would say. The deep state military map, even though it's not ideal, but at least it is understandable. And yeah, I understand that Russians will occupy Kupiansk. It's just a matter of time. But that is what Ukrainian strategy is. Exchange the territories for the time. Those are not just my words. The Ukrainian military command itself says like that. But you see, for example, if we take Pokrovsk, how long Russian army is fighting there for this settlement? How many soldiers did they lose? It's crazy, and imagine the number of the soldiers Russians will have to waste for Sloviansk, Kramatorsk, Dushkivka, Konstantinivka. In Konstantinivka, there are useless attempts to get into the settlement, numerous of those. And Putin today told about Kupiansk, one of the biggest armies in the world, yeah, as many say the second one, which is not, says that they are capable to occupy Kupiansk, then the fact that they were not able to occupy it, that tells a lot about the capabilities in general of the Russian army. But somehow this Russian regime managed to brainwash maybe Vitkov, yeah, and Vitkov brainwashed his friend Trump that Russia is a mighty force. Russia will occupy Slavyansk, Kramatorsk, and everything of that very soon. That's what today Doni said during his press conference in Oval Office, that Russia will still occupy those territories. If Ukraine doesn't agree on the peace proposal, it is imminent. Yeah, it could be imminent, but what might happen to Russia in that case? How far Russian economy could struggle under sanctions, under Ukrainian strikes? How far Russian society could take those losses? Because those could be hundreds of thousands, actually, because this area is the most defended. And if nothing is happening in Russia just right now, everything looks more or less stable, but there are red flags everywhere and the signs that everything is not going according to plan. Well, if it feels like stability, at any moment it could collapse. And with that, that's the Ukrainian strategy, actually, to continue to resist until there is the time for Russia to disintegrate or the Russian regime to collapse. Yeah, it will happen. The Russian regime may look strong, but no. There is no unity in Russia. Even Prigozhin's situation showed that. And also now there is a big scandal among military bloggers of the Russian Federation. They accuse each other of betrayal, and it seems like even the high Russian military command, including Gerasimov, they are not in favor of Putin any longer. Well, at least there are some of the articles out there in the Russian media blaming Gerasimov for abusing the power and corruption schemes. Well, I don't have the Russian keyboard. I'm sorry. I will do it from my phone. So here we have some of the articles on Russian media. Yeah, it's not the big media so far, but still we have it. Valery Gerasimov abused his power and put his lover Yelena Salifonova on a high-rank position in the Russian Defense Ministry. Article dated just a couple of days ago. But before that, just maybe Prigozhin criticized Gerasimov. He was in favor of Putin. But now something is happening. Maybe Putin is dissatisfied that Russians cannot take the settlements, Pokrovsk and everything de facto. And Gerasimov only draws the Russian gains on the map and then shows it to Putin. Well, it means that the Russian internal security forces are also dissatisfied, and they got the order from the high Russian command or Russian regime to to push Gerasimov. Maybe because of that, we're gonna see more crazy mid-wave attacks and convoy attacks of Russians, because for Gerasimov it could be life and death situation. Alright, to the other news, we have those from Crimea. You see, Russia continued to lose their raiders on territory of the occupied peninsula. Primary drone unit, again in operation, they caused so many losses for Russia. I mean, billions and billions of dollars of equipment was just wasted. And Russians still cannot protect it. They don't have those anti-drone systems installed or even designed. That's why their air defense is pretty much a good prey for Ukrainian drone operators. That's the big dome of the big radar. Probably inside there was the Neba-U system. One more. What is this? Oh, they tried to launch some of the missile. Very close, but didn't work. So, let's see. What is this? This is some sort of the, I think the part of the gas infrastructure, some sort of the pump station. Hard to say, definitely. Ah, it's a helicopter, guys. Sorry. Yeah, definitely it's the helicopter. Yeah, it's K-27, 100%. So it goes like this. This is the fuselage. Here we have the rudder. It is placed in two of the... Yeah, this is the helicopter. Absolutely great job done by our guys. Yeah, for sure. K-27, 100%. I have just received this video by the time I'm recording this video update. So yeah, it was a surprise. Oh, more kabooms in Crimea. Ooh, the Russian air defense. Is it successful? Well, this Russian says that there is the smoke somewhere on the ground, so maybe not successful. And yeah, we have one more confirmation that it was a kaboom, some sort of the local substation geolocated. Yeah, this is the substation. And what is there? Well, that's the power plant. Also, the kaboom happened in Vladivostok. This is thousands kilometers away from Ukraine. Something was burning there, and it's hard to say what particularly. Local Telegram channels are concerned, but I don't have the confirmation of what was on fire there. Could be just a wildfire, kind of the big one. Couple of the words about this Trump's or maybe Putin's peace deal that was proposed to Ukraine. Well, Donny is sure that Ukraine should just take it. He says that there is no other choice for Ukraine. Well, yeah. Let it be like that. We already know the answer of Ukraine on that crazy proposal. Even, guys, even freaking Nigel Farage says that Ukraine being asked to halve the size of its army is unacceptable. I am waiting to see counter-proposal from the... Like, if even Farage says about that, it tells a lot, yeah? Political with its title, Vitkov needs a psychiatrist. Yes, even I feel like some sort of the doctor when I speak about American politics, because it's how I don't have words to explain what is happening, like what is in their heads. Wow. I think I'll not put too much attention on that one, especially for this video. No, maybe next time in some of the update, but it's too much. After all, as I said in my yesterday's update, it's the big nothing burger. My friends, thank you so much for supporting my job on Patreon, and if you want to support it, the link for my Patreon is in the video description just below. Another alternate is membership. For membership, you may press join. Thank you guys, you make this content possible. And tomorrow, as usual, I'm gonna update you at least with one video, maybe two, we're gonna see, because the news are coming hour by hour around Ukraine. It's still a very hot topic after all of those years since the start of the full-scale aggression of Russia against Ukraine. My friends, also please don't forget to press your like to this video and subscribe to the channel, because that is how you also help to propel this video in YouTube algorithms. Thank you so much. Friends, I wish you all a peaceful sky wherever you are, and have a great time.